This is in The Guardian. It's about climate change. Scientists watch giant Doomsday Glacier in Antarctica with concern. Cracks and fissures stoke fears of breakup that could lead to half-meter rise in global sea levels. 20 years ago, an area of ice thought to weigh almost 500 billion tons dramatically broke off the Antarctic continent and shattered into thousands of icebergs into the Weddell Sea. The 1,255 square mile Larsen B ice shelf was known to be melting fast, but no one had predicted that it would take just 1 month for the 200 meter thick behemoth to completely disintegrate. Glaciologists were shocked as much by the speed as by the scale of the collapse. This is staggering. It's just broken apart. It fell over like a wall and has broken as if into hundreds of thousands of bricks, said one. This week, ice scientists meeting in New Orleans warned that something even more alarming was brewing on the West Antarctic ice sheet, a vast basin of ice on the Antarctic Peninsula. Years of research by teams of British and American researchers showed that great cracks and fissures had opened up both on top of and underneath the Thwaite Glacier. It's called the Doomsday Glacier, one of the biggest in the world, and it was feared that parts of it too may fracture and collapse, possibly within 5 years or less. Thwaites makes Larsen B look like an icicle. It is roughly 100 times larger, about the size of Britain, and contains enough water on its own to raise sea levels worldwide by more than half a meter. It contributes about 4% of annual global sea level rise and has been called the most important glacier in the world, even the Doomsday Glacier. Satellite studies show it is melting far faster than it did in the 1990s. So what happened here, you guys, is that over the last couple of years, a specific study was done that sort of altered how we looked at this ice shelf. We thought it was more stable than it is. We found cracks that we did not know were present that make it likely that it might break off in the next 3 to 5 years. Okay. It's held in place by an underwater mountain, and it's kind of stuck on that mountain, and we're seeing it start to detach. So this is just a continuation. I'm sure some of you have seen the maps that go year over year and show the Antarctic continent and how much, even in just the last decade or two, it has, melted away. It seems every time I cover climate, it's in this very dark sort of way. It's never good news. We covered a couple weeks ago how the Arctic Ocean is more susceptible to the greenhouse effect than we thought, that it's more susceptible to Atlantification than we thought. We've covered permafrost melting. We've covered all sorts of stuff that's, you all see it with the extreme weather events, with wildfires, with the tornado that just tore through the United States. And this is another horrible, horrible indication that we are crossing lines of no return, and that what we can do now is at best mitigate the damage that we are already starting to see. So, as I've said before, this issue is of particular importance, because what do other issues matter if we're going to end up in a climate apocalypse? What does like healthcare or education matter if we're going to end up in a climate apocalypse, if we're not going to have a habitable planet? And this, I want to also, I saw a scientist who opposed the term anthropomorphic climate change because it's really not human caused. It's capitalism caused. It's our economic structure that prioritizes corporate profits over public action for the greater good. And I'm sure you guys know, some 3/4 of pollution is done by 100 companies. So when people like do this, well, do you drive a car? It's all your fault because you drive a car. Do you use energy in your home? It's all your fucking fault because you heat your home. Shame on you, right? That's absurd, you guys. It's that meme, right? You want to improve society, yet you're participating in society. It's that. We need to address the economic underpinnings of this problem and address capitalism if we ever hope to address the climate in any substantial way. And we need to if we would like to survive, even just a number of generations down. This is going to affect younger generations quite substantially in the coming years and decades. We've already crossed so many lines of no return. We just have. It seems like every time I fucking research the climate, we're crossing more and more of them. And there's more and more reason for alarm. And the worst scenarios are proven to have even been under exaggerations. So I encourage everybody to take the climate incredibly seriously and to try to combat the corruption and the capitalistic incentive structures that allow for us to destroy the planet for profit. Whatever you can do. And this is another shame on the Biden administration, because we were all told by the liberals, you have to vote for Joe or else Trump's going to destroy the environment. What's Joe done about the environment? He's done fuck all. He's done fuck all. He granted a whole bunch of additional drilling permits and fracking permits. He came out and said he's pro fracking. It's outrageous. It's just outrageous. The Doomsday Glacier likely to break off in the next 3 to 5 years, raising sea levels by what did they say, 0.5 meter, so 1.5 feet. That's substantial, you guys, and that's only, what did they say, 4% of the contribution to the raising sea level. You know, it's funny to me, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's funny to me how we fearmonger about the debt and deficit and say, you're leaving debt for the kids. What about the children? Well, what about the planet that you're leaving for the children? What about that? Do you think the kids might be better off if they have a habitable planet and a number on a balance sheet that you disapprove of? Or do you think they'd be better off burning alive, but having you see the number that you approve of on a balance sheet? How insane is that argument? How absurd. Why is it that the mainstream accepts the you're condemning future generations to debt bullshit, but don't accept the you're condemning future generations to a climate apocalypse?